welcome to Taking the Scenic Route, Scenic Regional Library's bi-weekly podcast. Now, if you're a longtime listener, you may be thinking to yourself, hey, Steve Campbell, why does your voice sound so oddly high? And no, Steve did not suck down a balloon full of helium. I am Sarah O'Daniel, the library's marketing specialist. Steve is on vacation this week, and he asked me to take over the podcast, and I happily accepted. So our podcast provides listeners with a closer look at the library, including interviews with upcoming program presenters, information about new and existing services, interviews with authors, book recommendations from our staff, and much, much more. I'm excited to be here, so let's jump right in and get started. My first guest is Eryn Borders. She is the Community Education Specialist with CATE, which stands for the Coalition Against Trafficking and Exploitation, which is located in St. Louis. She will be presenting Human Trafficking Awareness Prevention at our Pacific branch on Wednesday, July 16th at 4 p.m., our St. Clair branch on Tuesday, July 15th at 6 p.m., and our Sullivan branch on Thursday, July 17th at 6 p.m. Eryn, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So let's just hop on in and get started. So the first most obvious question is, what is human trafficking and what does it include?
Human trafficking, when we talk about the definition, it can get pretty wordy or pretty involved. A way that we can define it is the exploitation of people for profit. So exploiting other people for money and doing that through force, fraud, or coercion. Now, human trafficking can look a lot of different ways. There are different types of human trafficking. The most common types we'll see here in the United States are sex trafficking and labor trafficking. One thing I do want to point out with that definition, though, is a lot of times when we think about human trafficking, we think about this element of transportation. But nowhere in the definition is transportation a requirement. So people aren't required to be moved across county lines, city lines, country lines in order for it to be considered human trafficking. People are absolutely trafficked in their own communities, in their own homes, unfortunately. And so that transportation piece can be misleading. It's more so going to be about control, not just movement.
Oh, okay. That's really fascinating. I think a lot of people would probably agree with me who don't know a lot about the topic. When you say human trafficking, I just automatically think sex trafficking.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you said, transporting, like kidnapping, basically, is what I think of. So that's very interesting. So who are the people being trafficked? Are they primarily children, women? What's our demographic that we're looking at?
Yeah, so unfortunately, when it comes to human trafficking, anyone can be trafficked. And like I mentioned, trafficking can happen anywhere. A lot of times we may have this image that maybe is kind of informed by what we see on social media or what we see in TV shows and movies. Maybe if you've seen the movie Taken, about like young women and girls being trafficked. Now, women and girls are definitely impacted, but anybody of any race, any gender, any age can be trafficked. When we look at the national demographics from 2024, there were about 8,000 adults that were trafficked and about 2,600 minors that were trafficked in 2024 in the United States. And then breaking that down further, about 8,359 females and 1,972 males, and then 149 gender minorities.
That is awful. That is so many people. How does this happen to people? Are they already in vulnerable situations?
That's a great question. So yes, the short answer is yes. That vulnerable situation could look very different. And some of us might not even view what could be a vulnerability as vulnerability. For example, maybe I have like a lifelong dream. A trafficker could view that as a vulnerability to exploit. So we've heard traffickers say before, if you come work for me for the summer, then I'll pay for your college. So in essence, in like what we're seeing happen in reality is what we call recruitment behaviors, where a trafficker is targeting someone based on need or based on trying to form a relationship. So building connection, building dependability, building trust. And then once that relationship is built, exploiting that relationship and that trust that's built. So that could be like offering a job. offering a friendship, posing as a romantic partner. And so maybe my vulnerability might be I'm feeling lonely, and that trafficker is filling that void. Or maybe the vulnerability is I have a financial need and they're offering me a job, or they're saying they're going to buy groceries for the week if I come to a party and do what they say. So they're identifying maybe what we need and figuring out how to exploit or manipulate that. And so to your point from before, where you said we often think of kidnapping, that's really not uncommon for most people to think that. But what we see a lot more often is building a relationship and exploiting it over time.
So we touched on this a little bit, but I think that most people think that this is something that is mostly happening in other countries. Like you said, you pointed out Taken. You said Taken right as I was thinking Taken. You think about it happening overseas. How prevalent really is this problem in the US and especially in Missouri?
Absolutely. And yeah, that's not uncommon to think that it's happening overseas, but we are seeing it happen here. When it comes to the data, it can be hard to get a realistic picture of what's actually happening for a lot of reasons. Data around human trafficking can be difficult to gather. But what we do know, so last year in 2024, here in the United States, there were about 32,000 tips of human trafficking received. And of those tips, around 12,000, just under 12,000 cases were identified, with 21,865 survivors. So that was nationally. And kind of zeroing in more specifically in Missouri, we had 696 tips, 272 identified cases of human trafficking, and 539 survivors identified. So this is still very large. This is a large number. Thinking about it happening in our own communities, happening nationally as well. But we can most likely assume that it's going to be larger than this in reality.
With that happening in our communities, it sounds like it is a pretty prevalent problem. What should someone look out for to see if something like this is going on around them?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things is like considering risk factors. So there are going to be demographics or communities of people that are at a higher risk or more likely to be impacted. And so that's going to be runaway or unhoused young people, involvement in the child welfare system or the juvenile justice system, a young person who's dropped out of school, people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, LGBTQ plus youth or unaccompanied migrant youth and seasonal workers. And then as well as racism, those systemic oppressions are also risk factors. So keeping in mind those risk factors, but then maybe some kind of indicators of potential exploitation could be if someone doesn't have their identifying documents, maybe somebody has like a rehearsed or an automatic or scripted reply. If they're always being accompanied by a third person, especially if they're going to the doctor or they're in a meeting, if they provide inconsistent answers to personal questions, those are going to be some maybe indicators of exploitation. But more so than kind of that checklist, keeping in mind those risk factors.
Okay, so if somebody does notice these things happening, uh, if they do see the signs, what should they do? Should they call the local police? Is there a hotline they should call?
So if someone's worried about someone's immediate safety, so they're concerned that this person is in immediate danger, they should absolutely call law enforcement. If someone is suspecting exploitation or they're suspecting that a business is kind of engaging in exploitation, they can call the National Human Trafficking Hotline. So this is a confidential number you can report a tip, and that's 1-888-373-7888. You can also visit their website to report a tip. If you're concerned or maybe you want to learn more about the resources available to you in your area, you can visit our website, mocate.org/MRG, and there you're going to find our Missouri Resource Guide. So this is a comprehensive list of social service agencies that are located in Missouri and the greater Kansas City area and Metro St. Louis as well. So it's going to be a bunch of different social services that are local to you.
As I mentioned, you work for CATE. What does your organization do to combat the problem?
So CATE is a statewide coalition, and we work to prevent and respond to human trafficking and exploitation. So as part of the coalition, we work with agencies and organizations across Missouri. And we host work groups. So we partner with those agencies, partner with individuals from those agencies, and meet and kind of talk about different things like survivor needs, transportation, kind of what the need is in Missouri. And then we also engage in political advocacy. We engage in standards of care when it comes to anti-trafficking work, as well as research and data collection. We also provide statewide teletherapy. So if somebody's working with a survivor who would be interested in those therapeutic services, we are working statewide to provide that kind of service. And if you're looking to learn more about human trafficking, we travel across Missouri to educate in communities. So, like you mentioned, I'll be in the libraries.
So, CATE is under the umbrella of another organization, the Healing Action Network. What do they do?
So, Healing Action Network is our parent organization. Their mission is to foster safety, healing, and recovery with survivors of trafficking and exploitation. And so they do that through their two programs, one of those being CATE and the other being the Center for Survivors. And so the Center for Survivors works directly with survivors, providing those direct care pieces. So, intensive service management, trauma therapy, individual and group peer support services, a lot of those important direct care pieces that we think about, crisis management, they work with survivors.
That kind of leads into our last question, which is how are the services offered by the Healing Action Network funded? And does someone who utilizes their services have to pay for any of it?
That's a great question. Services are free to survivors. We want to provide that service free of cost. So then we're predominantly grant funded. And so we're funded through several sources, state and local grants. Right now, we're making a big push to kind of increase our unrestricted funding. So we're looking at donations and community partnerships. If someone wanted to get involved and support, we're right now working on a big event that on Friday, October 17th of this year, we'll be celebrating 10 years of service. And so we're going to host our fundraiser to celebrate 10 years of service. And if you want to get more information on how you could be a part of that, you can visit our website at healingactionnetwork.org and click on our Get Involved tab, and there's some information there.
Okay, perfect. So once again, Eryn will be presenting Human Trafficking Awareness Prevention at our Pacific branch on Wednesday, July 16th at 4 p.m., our St. Clair branch on Tuesday, July 15th at 6 p.m., and our Sullivan branch on Thursday, July 17th at 6 p.m. There's still plenty of time to register for those. If you would like to register for any of those programs, you can register by visiting our website, scenicregional.org/events. You can also learn more about the Coalition Against Trafficking and Exploitation by visiting their website at mocate.org. Eryn, do you have anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
I just thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to being in your libraries.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us. Our next guest is Stacy Emerson, the library's trainer and adult education instructor. She has worked at the library for 10 and a half years, and her smiling face is one of the first things new employees see when they start their position. Many of our patrons may also recognize her due to the many computer and technology classes that she offers. Stacy, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Absolutely. So, to start us off, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what your role is here at the library?
Yes, absolutely. So I started working at the library about 10 and a half years ago, and my role here at the library is twofold. I actually train our staff on things technology related. I'm not the only one who gives them training, but I am one of the constants throughout their tenure of working here. And then I also do computer classes for the public. I do classes based on our digital resources that we have here at the library to teach them how to use those resources. And then I also do basic programs on common software like the Google platforms or the Microsoft Office programs. So, in a nutshell, that's what I do.
What type of classes do you have that you've presented to patrons in the past? I feel like it's very varied.
Yes, I would say that is true. When it comes to basic computer classes, I offer classes that cover topics for people who have not really used computers before. So basic computer operation, which teaches them how to turn computers on and off correctly, how to use a mouse, how to navigate the desktop. I have classes on how to use the internet and do basic searches. And then I have classes on Microsoft Office programs from an introductory standpoint to Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint to maybe intermediate level classes for those Microsoft Office programs so they can be more productive in their home life or in their work life.
So we offer those to patrons, and most of the time that is scheduled branch by branch, correct?
It is. Most of my classes take place at Union only because that's where I'm headquartered. But our adult programmers that are out at all of the branches, they are more than welcome to have me come out and do classes for the patrons in their communities as well, which I do from time to time.
What would you say your most like popular classes are? Just curious.
I would say my most popular ones are Excel. I
Okay.
get the most people enrolled in my Excel classes because either they use it for work or they have uses that they would use in their personal life. Like you can use Microsoft Excel to do an address book. You can use it to do a budget, a household budget. You can use it to do a checkbook register. So those types of things people will find very useful in their home lives as well. So Excel continues to be the most popular classes I do.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like Excel especially has a lot of uses that people just don't know that it can do. And also, it's kind of confusing if you don't know it and don't take a class on it.
I totally agree with that. I
Yeah.
have a lot of my patrons come and tell me that they know that they can use it for certain things, but it can be a very frustrating program too. So, having somebody take them through step by step on how to use things, how to manipulate things, that's very helpful for them.
Right. So, speaking of Excel and everything that you do offer to our patrons, we are going to be rolling out a new type of service that is specifically targeting businesses, and that's called our Target Tech training. That also involves you. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure can. Target Tech training is training that is designed for our business communities out in the counties that we serve. So businesses can give me a call or send me an email to set up something for them. And we can do classes here at any of our library branches. I can also go to their place of business if that would be more convenient for them. We can do classes in the mornings, afternoons, or evenings, whatever's going to work into their schedules, because businesses have very unique needs when it comes to those kinds of things. So I can bring all of the classes that I was talking about with Microsoft Office and a few of our database resources that would help in professional development for their employees at their business and teach the classes for them specifically.
Right. And just to reiterate to everyone, because I feel like we get this question a lot too, that everything we do at the library here is free of charge. So, what classes do you have coming up?
Well, in July, on July 24th, specifically at 1 p.m., I have an Excel class that specifically focuses on how to customize the columns, the rows, and the cells within your spreadsheets so that they fit your purposes. So that's July 24th from 1 to 2. In August, I have a Microsoft Word class on Thursday, the 14th of August from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. It's a Microsoft Word class that covers document formatting. So, kind of how to tailor your documents to your purposes in terms of the page margins, the size of paper that you use, how to orient the paper so that it best fits your purposes. And then my most popular class ever, my Microsoft Excel manipulating data class, is
Mm.
also being offered in August on the 20th, which is a Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. That basically teaches how to write basic math formulas in Excel to have Excel do the math for you. So that is my most popular Excel class.
So, with these classes, how many people can you have in a class at a time?
Due to space constraints, I can have 10 people in class at one time. And for all of the Microsoft Office program type classes, we provide the patrons laptops so they get to actually practice what we've gone over before they leave the class. So they will also have some hands-on practice as well as instruction.
So if you are interested in any of Stacy's classes, don't hesitate to sign up because they have the potential to fill up very quickly with only having 10 spots. Stacy, is there anything else you'd like for people to know about you or your role?
Just that I hope they take advantage of these
Mhm.
resources. We get a lot of questions. The staff who works at all the branches, they tell me all the time that their patrons are asking for technological help, and it is available. So I hope they take advantage of it. I do have my regulars that come to almost every class I teach, and I love seeing them from month to month, but it would be great to see some new faces.
Oh, for sure. So if you would like to learn about the Target Tech training, you can go to our website at scenicregional.org/adult learning. And then if you visit our events calendar, you will be able to see all of Stacy's classes that she offers from month to month. So Stacy, thank you so much for joining me today.
You are quite welcome, Sarah.
Our next guest is Will Stuck, who will be presenting his Pigment of Your Imagination program at multiple of our branches during the second week of July. He describes himself as an edutainer with shows that are a mess, meaning M.E.S.S, which means they feature music, education, stories, and science. Will, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. So let's start with, I'm hoping you can tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got started as an
Yeah,
edutainer and maybe what an edutainer is for people who don't know.
sure, absolutely. So I started off, we're going way back. I started off as the class clown. But then right out of high school, I got a job at my local library in St. Joseph, Missouri, and did a couple of jobs there, like shelver and delivery guy, and started working on the desk a little bit. And from there, they found out that I had a bunch of useless talents, like magic tricks and juggling and stuff like that. And they asked me to do one program, and it went well enough that they asked to do two. And in the library world, when they find out you're good at something,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes your job.
Yep.
So I started doing children's programming, loved it, and eventually was in a capacity where they asked me to be in charge of my own department at a brand new branch that opened up. And I did that for a number of years. And during that time, I, you know, got a reputation around town as somebody that provided educational entertainment for kids at the library. I was getting requests to go around the state and do like librarian trainings on how to have successful programs and stuff along that lines. And I started having peers around the state saying, I can't believe you're not going out and trying to do shows. And then I had performers that we hired at my library that were encouraging me to go out on my own as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it took quite a while for me to actually sit down, and I made several pros and cons lists. And finally, in 2017, with the full support of my wife, I decided to make the leap from being a children's librarian to professional speaker, and at the time, professional storyteller. And what I learned was the speaking part's not a problem. That's exactly what I am. I'm a professional speaker when I get hired to go to conferences and staff trainings and things like that. But the storyteller aspect didn't pan out as well, only because in the summer, your age groups that show up, it's pretty varied. And it's kind of difficult for storytellers to make everybody happy with their stories. I love storytellers. I love storytelling, but it's very difficult to present a story that's going to have a wide age range. And so, like, if it's just preschoolers, you're great. If it's just adults, you're great. But when they're both in the same room, somebody probably is going to be bored. So the people who were hiring me were hesitant to hire me based on the professional storyteller side. But once they hired me, they were like, well, that's not quite what we imagined the story being. They really liked it. But while I was telling stories, I was doing all the stuff I did as a children's librarian. So I was singing songs and sometimes juggling and sometimes magic and sometimes cartooning and sometimes science and sometimes basically whatever I felt would make the show better, I was adding these elements. So it wasn't quite a storytelling show. So I was trying to find another thing to call what I do. and remembered our local newspaper in St. Joseph referred to what I did at the library as edutainment. So I decided to call myself an edutainer, meaning it's entertainment, and I think it's really fun and funny, but I like to think that there's some educational qualities in there as well. So edutainment is what I landed on, and M.E.S. describes my kind of edutainment perfectly. Very manic, high energy delivery style, but also, yeah, you're guaranteed there's going to be some songs, there's going to be some educational elements, some stories, and I like to do science. So if I can find a way to throw a science experiment in that works with the theme, that's what I do.
Okay, so can you tell us a little more about your show that you put on and what you're going to be doing here at the library?
Yeah, sure. So that whole mess idea, I try to carry from summer to summer. But as a former children's librarian, I try to be very aware of the theme that is used. And most states use either the CSLP, the Collaborative Summer Library Program,
Which
which
is
is
what we
like a
do.
national, yeah. And in Missouri, that's what we've done as long as I can remember. I mean, once we actually used the thing all together instead of everybody doing their own thing. And other states use iRead. So I try to come up with a show that I feel would work with both themes every year, just in case libraries rely on grant money to fund the programming. It helps them with the grant process if it fits the theme. So this year, I really, really love this year's theme, the Color Your World, because I'm an art person. I thought I was going to grow up to be a cartoonist or animator. I have a degree in art history, which is why I get paid to make animal sounds for a living. Um, but this whole idea of this art theme for this summer, I wanted my show to really focus on the creative aspect and the use of the power of imagination when it comes to creating art, whether that's visual arts, performative arts, whatever it may be. Imagination and creativity is very important for it. So my show is called Pigment of Your Imagination. And in this show, I tell a story, but I also kind of improv the story and use the kids to help me design an imaginary animal. So I use my art skills. I've got a dry erase board. I have the kids maybe suggest different parts of an animal, like an elephant's ears, but I want a mouse's nose and I want a snake body. So I draw a cartoon version of this imaginary animal that as a group we make. And then I kind of improv a story about that animal. And we use our imagination through the whole storytelling process, just from the way that stories are told. And there's a little bit of an audience participation that I don't want to give away right now. But if you go to the show, you'll see it. That's tied into the story. That's really fun. And I can say it's absolutely ridiculous, but man, is it powerful, because we're being silly, we're using our imagination, and even adults end up playing along whether they intended to or not. So it was a lot of fun. And then the song we sing focuses on creativity. It's an old camp song, is the song I picked for this year. And it really doesn't have anything to do with art, other than the fact that it's singing, which is a performative art. But it does have to do with creativity. So it's another one, there's a little bit of improv element to it, where the kids suggest different ways to sing the song. So the song's called The Wishy Washy Washerwoman.
Okay,
And
I've never heard of that.
yeah, it's one, believe it or not, I taught it at my summer reading workshops I did for the state library back in 2008, I
Oh, I
think.
believe it.
So it's an old camp song, but it's based on, there's a lot of actions, hand motions that go with it. And basically, the wishy-washy washerwoman can do anything as long as it rhymes with clothes. So you sing washes the clothes, dries the clothes, folds the clothes, smells a rose. But then I let the kids suggest different things that she can do. And so we get to practice our rhyming skills. They throw out an idea, and then I have to come up with what are the hand motions with that. So
A lot of on your feet thinking.
a lot of with that. And for the most part, I think I'm successful with it. Sometimes it's anyway. And then we wrap up this year with the science experiment that I have been doing for most of my pigment shows. Is I really wanted to do something to talk about color and the art behind color. And while I know some great science experiments, unfortunately, most of them require, the ones that I know that I like to do, require the space to be dark. And most libraries do not have the ability to completely darken a room. And as a former children's librarian, I know way better than to turn the lights off on a room full of children. So
Fair.
what I ended up coming up with is I did some experiments a few years ago where I talked about bubbles and surface tension and what pops bubbles. And the colors we see within a bubble is I try to tie it in to the refraction of light, the way that a rainbow's formed, except for it's not like liquid. So it's not refracting the light totally. It's getting trapped in the walls. So that's why we can't see all the colors of the rainbow in a bubble, but we can see some of the light waves being broken apart as they go through. So I tie it in that way. And then we just talk about surface tension and bubbles just because it's fun. And we got bubbles out, so I might as well talk about them.
Bubbles are so fun.
Yeah. So then after that, the show is over. And that all zips by. It's a very fast hour. Like the whole thing gets done. And I'm like, oh, we're at the end.
So it does sound like you really do like kind of are able to hit all age groups.
I try my best. And even some of the jokes that I put out there, like I was very fortunate coming from that librarian background and as somebody that's always loved stand-up comedy, always loved to make people laugh myself, gravitated towards storytellers, and I got to hire a lot of performers. I got to see a lot of the kind of shows that I enjoyed. And the performers that I hired, I really liked the ones that never talked down to the kids, that they could perform for the kids, but still make it fun and funny. But then also kind of had little jokes that zipped over the kids' heads so the adults would have fun too. Nothing risque or anything like that, but just little things that the kids totally aren't going to get it. But mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, the teachers that show up, hopefully they get something out of the show too, and they have as much fun as I do.
Like a Pixar movie. I'm recently been watching Pixar movies with my daughter, and there's no inappropriate jokes, but they really are for adults and littles.
My favorite, I'm so glad you said that. I am a diehard Disney nerd, and my favorite testimonial is on my website. A principal, when she wrote me a recommendation afterwards, she said that my shows are like a Pixar film, geared for kids, but plenty of entertainment for the adults as well. It's like my favorite. So you hit it again. That's twice somebody said that. I like that.
How many shows do you kind of like put on? It seems like you travel a lot. And so do you hit just a certain region, or do you go like all over the country? What do you do?
No, I pretty much go everywhere. I will say that June and July are my busy months for shows. So summer reading happens because of my library background and my connection to libraries. I get a lot of work in the summer. And that takes me all over the Midwest. Like if I go out too far, well, there's too much travel expenses required. And, I love performing for libraries. I don't want to be out of their budget, but I also have to make enough to pay my bills and take care of my family too. So
kind of important.
So I don't go how far away I go varies, but last 3 summers, I've been averaging a little over 110 shows in June and July across 6 states. So right now I am probably about 10 hours from you guys. I am in Western Oklahoma as we speak, doing some shows. I drive home on Friday, get to spend time with my family on Saturday. And then Sunday I drive to South Dakota for 9 shows over the next 3 days, next week, then a little bit of break. And then I come see you guys.
Do you ever sleep? I feel like should be my next question.
Believe it or not, I do crash hard about 9:30 or 10 o'clock. So,
all right.
Yeah, I try not to sleep while I'm driving. That doesn't work. But
oh, well, that's good. That makes me feel better.
lots of audiobooks, lots of podcasts. Yeah. But
which you can also get from the library. For our listeners who don't know, you can do that through the library too, with lots of audiobooks.
Hoopla and Libby are my friends.
They are very much our friends too. That's what we have. And they are fantastic. So with your show, a large part of it seems to be, you mentioned the storytelling, and then so it sounds like a lot of improv, especially on your part.
This summer especially, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Has there ever been a time where, because kids say the darndest things, or where they just threw you for a loop? Any good stories?
Well, I can tell you with the drawing, not so much.
Yeah.
I mean, fortunately, like I said, I've been drawing cartoons my whole life. So pretty much anything they throw at me, I can throw out there. I will say, like, for instance, today I was telling the story and we were drawing the character and they wanted giraffe legs. And you can't make giraffe. I mean, I can draw giraffe legs, but it's not going to be proportional to the animal. So they're like tiny giraffe legs. And so,
Like little
not that they,
pencils.
yeah, so it didn't throw me for a loop,
Uh-huh.
but like even the kids were like, I don't know. I guess that's a giraffe leg. So I tried to fill it in with the pattern.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, the song is throwing me more for a loop this year because I'm singing, so it has to fit the rhyme scheme
Uh-huh.
pattern of the song as well, and so it has to rhyme with clothes. And some kids just aren't at that rhyming phase yet,
Right.
so it doesn't quite always work. So if it doesn't rhyme, I'm like, well, think about it. Let's see if we can come up with something else, and I'll bounce to other people. Been pretty proud of how I've handled it. I will say, as a Midwesterner my whole life and come from a family of outdoorsmen that have been known to go fishing and hunting,
Mm-hmm.
the kid who suggested the word dough for rhyme for clothes,
Okay.
and I was like, dough as in, and I was hoping they were going to say like money, because then maybe I could have come up with something like wishy washy wash one makes a lot of dough and I don't know,
Yes.
cha-ching or something. And they were like, no, like a female deer. And unfortunately, the only thing that popped into my head had to do with field dressing a deer, and not really appropriate for a kid show. And for some reason, once that got stuck in my brain, I couldn't think of anything else. And I was like, I appreciate it. Congratulations, you have stumped me. I can't. I know something, but I'm not going to do it at this show. So let's move on to somebody else. So yeah, that was the biggest stumper so far
I
this
bet that
summer.
kid felt pretty proud.
Oh yeah, they were happy. They were
Uh-huh.
happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've heard some good ones this year. Things I'd never heard. I did have the first week of shows. I said I need a word that rhymes with clothes, and the kid said close, and I was like, sorry, no, it has to rhyme with it. They're like, no, like close the door. I'm like, oh,
Oh.
okay, homophones. All right, so so I was able to work something out. It was tricky, but we got that one. I thought that one was going to stump me, but we got it figured out.
That honestly feels that would be really hard for me. How do you think on your feet so quickly? Is it just from your years as a children's
Yeah,
librarian?
I
Lots of
think it's
practice?
from the years of being a children's librarian, also those years of being a class clown. I'm a bit of a smart aleck. The shows are. Here's what the years of being a children's librarian did. It was able to teach me self-censorship with my jokes that pop into my head.
There you go.
So I was able to still make jokes, be funny with the kids. But yeah, like my whole life has been just comebacks and making jokes off the cuff, and being able to kind of think of something fun and a
Mhm.
fun twist on things. So yeah.
Well, is there anything else you can think of that people listening might want to know about you or your show?
Well, I will tell you, I'm really excited. I've never performed at your libraries before. And honestly, when I retired from the library in 2017, I had already visited a lot of libraries,
Hmm.
both because my wife's a librarian as well. So we
Oh,
did
she
that a lot on
is?
our
Okay.
travels. She is. She's the real librarian. Like she has her master's
Yes.
degree. I was just a goofball that made animal sounds that kept getting promoted. Um, but like she's a real librarian. I'm the flashy part that got people in the door.
Right.
But if they got in the door, it needed people like her to actually make the
Yeah,
library
she's the
function the
one
way
that
it's supposed.
runs the library.
Correct, correct. Yeah, I was like the carnival barker that got people in the doors. But we went to a lot of libraries, and then, like I said, I was very fortunate. I presented at least 10 different times on behalf of the Missouri State Library trainings. So I've
Okay.
got to visit a lot of libraries, got to meet a lot of great librarians, including one of yours is one of my personal favorite librarians from around the state. Well, Christy Schink
Oh,
is
she's
one of my
amazing, isn't she?
one of my absolute favorite people, and I got to know her through the workshops. But also, we were on the Missouri Building Block Award Committee together for a number of years, and getting to hear her perform her readings of the books, fantastic. You guys are super lucky.
She is phenomenal.
Yeah, she's fantastic. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited. I finally get to visit, the library system she works for and do shows for you guys. And yeah, summer's looking good. I'm almost halfway through the gigs for this year, and then I take September to try to do as little as possible.
Yeah, recoup.
Yeah, then October hits and festival season. Sometimes people bring me into MC festivals and do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then speaking at conferences, I'm doing a keynote at the Missouri State Library Conference this year and the Nebraska conference. And then I fly out to Utah to do summer reading workshops for them. And it all starts all over again. Yeah.
Busy guy. Well, we are so
Busy,
excited to
busy.
have you coming to our library system. So, Will be here. He will be at our Owensville, New Haven, Warrenton, Union, and St. Clair branches. I believe that is split between July 9th and July 10th.
That's right.
So he will be here. You can find all of that information at our website, scenicregional.org, under the events tab in the events calendar, and you can register right there. So, Will, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
And that wraps up the latest episode of Taking the Scenic Route, Scenic Regional Libraries podcast. I had such a good time today. Please join us again in 2 weeks when we release our next episode.